Arr. Warming up.
Rawr.
We are late. It's been a very busy day. Very
Yeah,
hectic day.
dinner was late. Everything was late. Even Toby's lunch was late. So much
So,
late.
so if you're watching this episode and you're watching the live stream that's been recorded, yes, we were still late that day.
Huh?
We were still late that day for the people watching in the future.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, feel free to jump forward to the start of the show, which starts in a few minutes. We will just manually share the link for our for our current real time viewers.
But if you are watching now when it's still live, then please do support and uh, you know, share, comment, engage, choose wisely in the coming elections.
Okay.
That all helps the channel. What's happening here, cabling?
Yeah, the mouse got caught.
Was it a trap? Boop, 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 boop. So I'm tagging Toby in the Facebook post so that it extends because it's still we're still broadcasting off my personal Facebook page because we're those people. Then I get the link and bring that over to Twitter. Let me narrate what I'm doing.
Okay. Posted on Twitter the link. I see the link on YouTube. Resharing, posting. Okay.
I'm just trying to grab the link over the thing.
Okay, I can see the Facebook feed running.
Did you share that to Baduy,
Not
right?
yet.
Okay.
Oh, my nose is fiercely itchy again. And then I have received permission to share it in the other group because the game can be played solo. Hey Aina, hey Pico.
Hello. Hello. I'm just checking everything. Because it was the sort of day that I had to restart my computer at the end of my workday because it was so bogged down. So yeah, everything's in it. Julius is waiting for his food. I hope it arrives soon. We were a little late today because we finished dinner.
Mm-mm,
That and another episode of Coffee Prince.
mm-mm. It's really very quickly growing on me.
Yes, it plays Toby's strengths in the rom-com genre. All the tropes are in full force, but twisted because it's Korean and not Western.
I'm enjoying it so much. I'm turning into your mother.
Well, if you want to share this on the stream. Whereas she has the uncanny ability of predicting the end of forensic and crime, true crime stuff Toby predicts rom-com tropes as they are going to come along in the show.
Oh, I opened the wrong one.
Wrong manual.
Yeah. I'm supposed to open this one. Well, nice to have you guys in the live feed today.
Yes.
It's very warm, though. It's frighteningly warm. Okay, I think we can start.
Okay. I'm going to tidy up the captions and get the credit started.
Oh yeah! Baduy Pride!
This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want. My nose is itchy. Sorry.
This is completely unscripted. Not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Just talk about everything and anything random live.
If it's not your first time here, thank you so much for still joining us again. So every Tuesday, we try to cover a game, whether it's a role-playing game, a board game, a computer game, but generally it has been board games because, as you can probably see behind us, we have lots, and we really
have a
love
problem.
Yeah. And today is again one of those games which we weren't sure if we will enjoy.
Toby skipped on this Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because we were initially like, we're really gonna do this and no. And then in the end I became like a slacker backer and like but it was more because I'm a completist more
Mhm.
than anything else.
And then the game we're covering now was not the main thing.
It's not
you
even
backed.
the main thing.
It just came with the thing you back. So suddenly, we got Dinosaur Island, Rawr N Write.
So for clarity, Dinosaur Island Rawr N Write was released together with the Kickstarter for Dinosaur World. Dinosaur World is the tile-laying version of Dinosaur Island, which we will discuss another day. It's telling that we want to talk about Rawr N Write first because it's the better game. Okay. Rawr N Write, as is onomatopoeically implied, is a roll and write game. The lid is not on correctly. Is a roll and write game. And for those unfamiliar with the genre, these are games where typically players each have a sheet of some sort for scoring. More often than not, it's dice as the main element that is rolled, and then everybody uses that action in the same way. There are variations on this where it's like a deck of cards and stuff and other things,
I think
ultimately,
one of our earliest roll and write games was Kodama.
I was gonna say, yeah, the Tree Spirit game, because it was along those lines.
But with the heyday of roll and write games, you had everything from Quinto to well, I forgot So Clever. I forgot the name. Double, twice So Clever. I think it was that. I'm remembering the German name, which I will not say on air. But given all that,
because you know how like a few years ago, this dual games were all the rage. Everybody was making two-player versions of their games. In fact, Dinosaur Island came out with Dualosaur Island, a two-player variant, which was not bad. And then the next wave of kind of a lot of games was people were doing was roll and write games. In fact, one of our most beloved roll and writes, based on an existing game franchise, is Imperial Settlers Roll and Write, where Toby and I now mostly play the app on our own at any free time because it's so easy to just play a game. So Dinosaur Island Rawr N Write, I feel, is in a special category of roll and writes because it's based on an existing game franchise, as opposed to games like Railroad Inc. or Welcome to, which are great on their own, but are like unique takes on the genre. This one not only has to create a good roll and write game, but still has to live the spirit and in the theme of the Dinosaur Island franchise. And um, before I thought that Imperial Settlers Rolling Right was like the perfect implementation of, I mean, not perfect, but a great adaptation of a different kind of board game into a rolling right game
Mhm.
until Dinosaur Island Rawr N Write. So,
Let's open the box.
uh,
Created by Brian
I
Lewis,
was about to
Diane
read it out.
McGregor,
Yeah.
and Marissa Misura, with the art with two artists, Quan Shia Moria, and Andrew Thompson.
Published by Pandasaurus Games.
The game is a 1 to 4 player game that uses everything from dice rolling to grid coverage to paper and pencil mechanics to not just create a game but re-implement the Dinosaur Island gameplay. In
So,
Dinosaur Island,
oh, here
the main
we're
objective.
just stumbling over each other today to say the same thing. Go on. The main objective.
You broke my. You do it. You broke my
No, no, because
motivation.
what I just wanted to stress is that for those unfamiliar, Dinosaur Island, as a as a strategy theme park building game, is divided into 4 phases where you kind of gather up DNA, you draft cards, you build stuff in your park, and then you open the park. So Dinosaur Island Roar and Write kind of follows a similar pattern. And this I will cite across the games in this franchise is some of the clearest rule books I have ever read. I mean, like the rules are complex, so you may not quite get it without like careful study. But the way that they always organize these things into clear phases and how it
Mhm.
progresses through whether you're playing Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World, or Roar and Write, I love it. I love it. And so if you've learned Dinosaur Island, all the other versions feel familiar
Mhm.
in that regard. This game has a few more phases. I think it's 5 in total, if I'm not mistaken. But it's still kind of the same principle of like you're gonna gather resources, you're going to build stuff, take actions in this case, then you build stuff, and then you're gonna open your park and things like that. Um, and the goal is to get the most points, which I guess is always the goal in Dinosaur Island across its different versions.
So you have your pad.
Pads.
Each player gets 2 sheets. One sheet has the space for the park where they build it. The other sheet has the different options that you can build. Um,
They're double sided, so you can use each sheet twice.
you have the player map, which then acts as the action spaces when you choose to do certain actions in the game. There are certain variations in the map depending on the number of players. Let's put that there. You have, of course, your dice because Dinosaur Island uses dice as the randomizing engine in determining things.
I love the fact that across the Dinosaur Island games, we are committed to this size of dice because the first Dinosaur Island kicked it off this way, and we're forever stuck with them. Although we'll talk about the design color this time.
You have a small token to mark the turn order. It's colored pink, try to be similar to the amber color.
The phase we're
You
in.
have a bag. It's where you keep the dice when you are trying to randomize which dice you'll use because you don't use all the dice every time. You have pencils. Pencils are just pencils, but it's nice to know that they give you pencils that make you feel like you're choosing player colors.
But the ink is all black. It's just the shell that's colored.
You have the deck of cards, which represent the different specialists as well as buildings that you can acquire as part of the game. Um, you have, of course, the special solo deck that's used for solo play. You have your first player turn marker, which is this piece that reminds you of the amber from that movie, which this game was inspired by. And lastly, you have erasers, which are designed to look like dinosaurs, which make you want to never use them ever.
These were probably Kickstarter exclusives, if I'm not mistaken. So you may or may not get them if you find a standard retail version of the game, which I don't know if it exists because technically the Kickstarter was the first release of the game.
And
Yeah,
that's it.
those are all the
The
components.
rest is a box with inserts that allow you to keep things. As you can see here, there's some damage from one of the slots from transit when we got this. But ultimately, it nicely helps keep everything tidy.
So how does the game go? So um, where do we want to start? Um,
Player mats.
First, yeah, let's talk about your player mats, and now we have to clear stuff.
Dinosaurs back in the box.
Rawr, and then pencils. Okay.
Yeah, here.
Okay. So you have two sheets. You have your park sheet and um, sort of your action sheet, which also reminds you of the phases of the game because again, the game design of these people is kind of brilliant. So your park sheet covers many things. First, in Dinosaur Island, gathering resources was very important. This is represented by this DNA grid here in the main part of your park sheet. The language of the game is that when you gain a resource, so when you pick a die with that resource, you draw a circle in the boxes provided.
Here, I'll hold it.
Okay. Once you've drawn that circle later on in the game, when you're spending DNA, you cross it out, which I thought was a very brilliant way to like mark the
So it
economy.
would look something like this.
So the same thing for like well other resources and the like. Um, Coins are a special resource that you earn in the game that technically when you get coins you should spend them immediately. What can you spend coins for? You can spend coins to buy buildings, to hire specialists, or to like yeah, that's the main ones you're
Or
using
for for wild purchases using the board.
yes, because 2 coins can always be converted to certain other
Mhm.
actions of the game. Okay.
Buildings are here.
And then what's also interesting as tracked on this on the park page is threat, which is hard to tell. Threat and security. And we'll get to that in further detail later in this explanation.
Mhm.
So first you're gonna gain resources. Hence the dice draft. You will roll a number of dice equal to players plus one, and then each player will draft 2 dice in turn order. As you draft the dice, you gain the resources printed on it.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's weird stuff like roads. Sometimes it can be features. This is a merchandise store or some orange DNA or different variations of DNA. If it's DNA, you gain it immediately on your DNA track, so drawing circles.
Mhm.
If it's coins, you must allocate where you will spend them on the specialist sheet. If you do not want to spend them, you have a temporary bank above your dinosaur area, which can contain up to 5 coins. But if you want to store a sixth, it's not going to happen.
Mhm.
So you can store up to five, and you have to make a decision. Um, and that's pretty much gathering dice. So then you're going to take actions, which involves the player board. What happens to the player board, Toby?
So in the player board, as you can see here, we have 5 blue areas which represent the action spaces where a die can be placed in order to take that action. The actions range from making dinosaurs, where you're allowed to make up to 4 of them, raising funds, which allow you to either get money or increase the security level of your park, extract DNA, which allows you to gather either 2 basic DNA or one of the more advanced DNA, duplicate the face value of the die, which allows you to double the reward you're getting from the die, effectively tripling the reward.
Because you already gained it earlier.
But then everyone else gets the basic reward of that die. This, however, cannot be used to earn attractions, and that's because some dice, such as this one, can automatically give you attractions.
That was a ride.
Um, Finally, you have build, which allows you to build roads or build one of the amusements,
The
whether it's
features.
rides, um, food, or merchandise. And a small reminder at the bottom that says you can always pay 2 coins in order to get either DNA, roads, or security. Now, in games that have more players, there are more spots available. But bear in mind that these spots merely mean you can take the action without repercussions. In games wherein you don't have all the spots, if someone has placed a die to mark that they're doing that action before you could still choose to place your die on top of it to still do that action. But the cost will be the red dots on each die.
Threat!
Each die has 0 to 3 red dots, which represent the threat level that you will have to find a
Threat!
way to deal with in your park. By taking actions that others have taken before, there's a big chance that you might end up having to deal with threat in addition to whatever you else are balancing, which makes placing dice on the board part of the strategy. It's not just choosing your action, but it's also choosing which die to use to take the action. So if they follow you, they suffer threat.
Mm. And threat, which I love in this game, is that can't quite tell, but here in the guide, it's scored by marking a dot on this threat track. And then when you gain security are also drawn as circles. So you know that you have enough security to handle the threat when you've encircled the dot,
Mhm.
which is brilliant. You gain threat in several ways, one of which the most common is the dice. Because what will happen is that you draft the six dice. The seventh dice is a resource everybody gains, but everybody also gains the threat indicated on that die. And then the next most likely time you're going to get threat is during the action phase. If you place your die on top of another die that has threat dots on it. And then finally, dinosaurs.
Now, in addition to the dice being what makes every game random and different each time you play, you have the two types of cards that are usually set on the left and right side of the board. So you'll notice there's these little notches here.
And then it says ABC.
So that allows you to fill them with either cards that are buildings you can build or specialists, which are people you can get to help you. For example, this one is the Jack of all trades specialist.
Oh, we just discovered him last game.
The Jack of all trades specialist costs 4 money to hire, but then upon hiring him, you instantly increase either your excitement, your security, or your number of roads by 2. And then for the next few times in the game when the income phase happens, he gives an additional small reward. Contrast that, for example, with here the large carnivore handler, who probably costs the same 4, but instantly gives you excitement and security because he's taking care of the park and making sure the large carnivores don't get into trouble. In addition, every income phase, he increases security based on the number of carnivores you have. So this allows you to actually invest on carnivores to invest faster in the game. Buildings, buildings we can only explain if we also explain how you build your park. But buildings basically similar to specialists have a coin cost at the top that you pay,
An
have
instant effect.
an instant effect, but more importantly, oh, it's not visible there. Each one has a small pattern, as you can see here, which determines what shape you need to build in your park to have that building. Because parks are drawn in this grid.
So everything is going to get drawn because it is a Rawr N Write. If you notice earlier, the first of the actions of the action board was to create dinosaurs. In fact, you can create up to 4. And the bottom of your
I
park
got it.
sheet, or we're doing it, the bottom of your park sheet not only lists the dinosaurs and their DNA costs, but also indicates, so it's hard to see, the grid size that you have to draw. Herbivores are 2 by 2, small carnivores are 3 by 3, and large carnivores are 4 by 4 boxes. Um, so not only do you have to map out that do you have the costs to pay, the resources to pay for these dinosaurs, but do you have space in your grid to draw them? And to help you distinguish your dinosaurs, one letter in each dinosaur name is highlighted in a different color. You will write that letter in the middle of the box, marking the paddock. Thus, if you look here, I have a big M at the bottom. That is a Megalosaurus. Versus, if you look at this one, there's a Spinosaurus and a Brachiosaurus and an Ankylosaurus.
Now,
All these things.
clearly, building your park means drawing the shapes, and the shapes are based on either the attractions you build or the buildings you've chosen to purchase. Part of the rules when filling the grid is that all buildings should not touch. Thus, if you can look very carefully, there are small connecting lines that connect buildings without allowing them to touch each other directly. Those lines are roads.
Roads.
And the roads are important in creating the path for your building for 2 reasons. The first being the edges of the board have certain things called exits, and these exits are worth points at the end of the game. You always have to make a trailing path from the headquarters to the exit at a certain point of time in the game. And this happens 3
Headquarters
times.
on top.
This happens 3 times in the game.
Yes.
Um, When you make a path and you do the tour, you mark each building you pass through with an X, and these X's become points that are excitement points that later help you further in the game. In the later sessions, however, you have to try to build new routes because even if you can use the same route before, since they are areas that have been visited before, they don't score you excitement points.
They're boring. We've seen this already. Daddy, I want a pony.
So, a large part of a game is finding ways to not just build your park, but plan for the routes later that will be used for the later rounds.
So the building part's quite fun, but you must decide what you're going to build when you build it. So if you have generated enough coins to purchase a particular building, then you must immediately draw it in your park. If you decide to create dinosaurs, you must immediately place their paddock in the park. If you're building attractions, immediately build it and decide. So you're already kind of mapping out where you're going to put things, what route am I hoping to make, um, and if there are chaining bonuses, like certain buildings benefit from being next to other buildings, then how do I make sure that happens, but still get to the park exit I want to get to? A lot of things to juggle. Very, very exciting. And it's a unique challenge specific to this version of Dinosaur Island that I really love. Okay. Once everybody is finished with their actions and placing their stuff, then we go through a phase of activating the all the different park resources. So the specialists trigger all their abilities. The buildings that are relevant can do building stuff,
Mhm.
and then we see what happens. And then finally, the culmination, as Toby mentioned, is the Dino Tour, where you will decide to, from the HQ, draw a route passing roads connected to different buildings and hopefully getting to an exit. If you don't get to an exit, you cannot get the points.
Mm.
If you do get to an exit, you encircle that exit to mark that you have been there, and you cannot encircle it again in future Dino Tour rounds. So there are like 5 exits with points ranging from 3 to 10.
Mhm.
So it you naturally you're going to want to be greedy and get the bigger point exits, but of course they're further away, which may take more time to plan. So think about it carefully. Once you've done, you've calculated how much excitement you gain from the Dino Tour, you'll then earn income based on your excitement track. You may want to bring up the pad for excitement. It's the player one. Oop, other one. Oh, he was hiding behind a sheet. Okay.
Okay.
So excitement is marked with many of the same icons we've seen in the rest of the game: DNA, coin, security. But while instead of the others mark them as instant spends or rewards, this one marks end of turn income during the excitement phase. So the more that you have encircled in the earlier parts of the game, the more stuff you'll get. And that can be a deal breaker because it may be enough to get you enough security to deal with the fact that you purchased very large dinosaurs this round, but not enough security guards. Quite
So
exciting.
here's a good example of an excitement sheet with lots of areas encircled,
Yep.
which means there's a lot of rewards that this person gets in the income. Your excitement level also determines the points you'll get based on the lowest row you've reached.
At the end of the game.
But after the tour is done, we then check for the death toll.
Yeah, so death toll represents thing, in the original Dinosaur Island when park guests disappear because dinosaurs escape. So same thing. The death toll track has exclamation points on some of the numbers, and what that means is you have to take a consequence from the side there, and the consequences range from everything to destroying a dinosaur paddock, destroying roads, or losing DNA, to cite a few. So they're very, very painful. Plus, every mark on the death toll track will be a penalty point at the end of the game. So please don't kill too many guests. Destroyed buildings cannot be rebuilt because you will shade the box entirely. The Dino Tour Jeep cannot pass through destroyed buildings. You must find a new route around. It's a big pain, so be very
Mhm.
careful about that. And then finally, after 3 full rounds of the game, you will score. And scoring is at the bottom of the sheet, and it's quite easy to follow along. But basically, you earn points for your dinosaurs based on their specific rewards. Herbivores get the least,
Mhm.
big carnivores get the most. You'll earn points for your specialists, they're all 3 points each. You earn points for their buildings, and it depends on the building computation because sometimes they have fixed points, sometimes they are variable based on other factors in the game. Uh, you will earn points based on all the park gates you were able to encircle. You will earn points based on how far you got in the excitement track. You earn even more points if you went beyond 61 on the excitement track. We have not gotten there. Just you wait, Enriagans. You will get a point for every 2 DNA that you still have left in your storage. And then you get your penalties based on death toll. And if you manage to exceed 20 on the death toll track, you will lose 2 points for excess death. So again, be very, very careful. And that's the main game. That's it. It plays in about an hour. You'll probably spend more time drawing your park elements
Mhm.
because it can be overwhelming, especially when you first build dinosaurs. And then like I'm gonna build 4 dinosaurs at once. Those could be four of one type of dinosaur, sure, which is only one paddock, but that could mean 4 different paddocks. So that's 4 different things to draw on your grid and making sure you follow your building placement rules,
Yes.
which is really all the fun in the game. Um, what else?
So beyond just the base game, we do also have options on playing the solo mode.
Ooh,
Part of the solo mode is a few variations on how the gameplay works. There are certain setup changes, but there are now what we call the 10 solo cards, 5 of which are used in order to identify the objectives each round. But dice drafting is still present, uh, choosing your actions is still there, and in the end, it's a battle against the game to score the most points. If you're averaging 50 to 80 points, then you're getting the hang of the game, but you're not quite there yet. But if you reach 130 points or more, you get the Lifetime Achievement Award.
so we haven't quite played the solo game. Like many rolling rights, it's always sad when you're like, oh, I have to spend the page.
Mhm.
But again, games are meant to be played with, so do not be afraid to use your sheets if you're really insistent. I know we have friends who laminate sheets,
Mhm.
so that they're a bit more reusable, and that's fine. But yeah, just play with the sheets.
The
Just
game also comes with a few rule variants. For example,
oh yes,
there's dice blocking. In that variant, you can only place a die in an occupied space if you have more threat than the earlier die. There's specialist and building draft, wherein the cards that are present are drafted rather than just drawn randomly.
mm.
Um, and then there's also the option wherein you can only buy cards you drafted to your sheet, which makes it
Ooh.
very hard.
Ooh. So I mean, as much as you have the general attractions as like everybody can share, that you can build rides, you can build merch stores and food establishments. Um, but the unique buildings do change the way every game goes. I think between our games, I swear the available buildings drastically change the feel of things
Mm.
because it totally dictates what you're gonna do. In our last game, and this is Toby's park sheet, see that giant hashtag in the middle of his park? That is like
Jet ski.
this this jet ski arena for T
15
Rexes.
points.
It gets you 15 points at the end of the game. Its instant bonus was more
But it
threat.
cost 9 coins.
9 coins when buildings are the most expensive buildings are
So
10.
all of you were like building dinosaur paddocks and stuff, and I was still earning up jet ski, jet ski, jet ski, and then finally jet ski.
Plus, he had to map out this huge space. He actually built roads ahead of the jet ski
To connect to
because
it.
he planned where it would go. So it was insane. And I know Toby always gets fixated on these things when he'll be like, "Ooh, I want to try to do this weird thing just because the game lets me do it." I
Mhm.
mean, like he likes that sense of challenge. It's like when we play Caverna sometimes, and then
Mhm.
he'll be like, "I only want cows," and then he'll see if he can do a cow game. Um, totally works out.
So some rules that are frequently overlooked according to the manual. The drafting of the dice is done in snake order. but the actions are done in clockwise order.
Oh, we messed that up in
So
our last round.
I believe we missed that one. Second is during the draft, you only gain the threat and the resources of the leftover die.
We forgot
Um,
the resources the first time
yeah.
around.
When we place on a die stack, you only gain the threat on the top die in the stack. And then you have when you place a die with a slash on a duplicate space, you may choose either option
Each
each
time you
time you
duplicate.
duplicate the die.
Ooh.
And then you can never duplicate attractions. You may place a die with an attraction space, but it has no effect. So you can actually do it just to block the space. And then during the run park phase, you can pass through buildings that already have been marked with an X. You don't earn excitement for them. You cannot pass through destroyed areas. In order to circle the exit, your tour must end there because it is possible to pass through a line that crosses some exits, but you don't end it there.
Mm-hmm.
If you build a new attraction or specialist during the associated step in the run park phase, you can use the item's run effect immediately. If you circle a new icon on your incitement trap during the excitement phase, you gain that resource immediately. Resources, you can spend coins immediately when you earn them, no matter what phase of the game you're in. If you fill a specialist or building's coin trap, you gain its instant bonus immediately before anything else. Coins and roads in the storage can be spent at any time. If the DNA track is full, additional DNA of that type is converted into coins. And at any time, you can spend 2 coins for DNA, a basic DNA. Oh no, sorry, that's advanced. An advanced DNA, a road, or security. And then finally, in the park map, you can only have one paddock for each species. When you make new dinos of an already existing paddock, you don't draw a new paddock. If you have a paddock for a species that's been destroyed and you build a new one, you can build a new one. Attractions, paddocks, and building cards are considered buildings. Roads and park exits are not. And finally, you only score circled park exits that you have a legal tour route to at the end of the game. So this one we haven't really touched on.
Because we haven't destroyed
Yes,
anything.
but we haven't had that much destruction. But destruction would affect that.
Yes. So if a item if a structure is destroyed or road is destroyed and you no longer have a route to that exit, then you lose the points of that exit. So hence I like to build redundancy in my park routes and not make it a giant snake. But that's just me.
So the game, as mentioned earlier, is a re-implementation of Dinosaur Island because it does try to capture the key moments and experiences that you feel when you're playing Dinosaur Island. Interestingly, while we have played Dinosaur World,
Which
we
is what introduced the tour element,
Yeah.
right? It had the Dino Tour also in that
we
game.
found ourselves really enjoying more Dinosaur Island than Dinosaur World because there was a simplicity to the system. We admit that it might be because we've only experienced Dinosaur World with a certain player count, and we haven't really tried experiencing it with more options.
Yes.
Dinosaur Island, right? Rawr N
Roar.
Write, however,
Rawr.
is brilliant in that it does give you the same feels of the original Dinosaur Island, but not feel like you're replacing it.
And did you see how many different things we could write on this sheet? How many things you're tracking? Your DNA, your threat, your security, your building progress, your specialist progress, all these things. It actually doesn't end up being overwhelming. It's just exciting because there's just so many things to do. And it's such a well designed, richly the color is so rich on this sheet. It's not a cheap print at all.
Mm.
The paper is thick. Um, I love it. I love it as far as rolling rights go.
Instructive
So
iconography
much.
is quite clear.
Mm.
There was less opportunity to get confused as to what the symbols meant, which was saying much because given we've seen games we're in, that symbol's what? Oh wait, it looks like that symbol,
Mm.
and it gets frustrating when you find yourself having to refer to references too often just to distinguish things. We're talking to you, Dinosaur World.
And then I love the fact that this your main your other player sheet is also has a turn guide that reminds you of what's going on.
Mm-mm.
So you're going to do your attraction step, your specialist, your dino tour, your excitement, your death toll. I mean, like at least for the park phase, it's all pretty straightforward, and I love it. I super love it.
So,
Sorry.
quick feedback. Some people might find themselves thinking, oh, I don't want to get that game because you're using up the pages. And what will happen when you run out of pages? To be honest, If you've played this game so much that you've run out of pages, you rightfully deserve to support the creators and buy another one if you want it.
Or contact them for extra pages. I'm
Mhm.
sure they're gonna sell pads.
But in the end, I think the chances of you running out of pages are pretty small unless this is like one of the three games you own.
Like what? You only own 3 games? Is
Yeah.
that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Are the other games Dinosaur Island and Dinosaur World?
Yeah.
Well, what about Dinosaur Island, which we haven't officially talked about in the game? I still like Dinosaur Island.
Those are still nice.
Dinosaur is cute, although I will say Dinosaur is not a shorter Dinosaur Island.
Mm-hmm.
It's still quite long. So
And I actually put that in third place.
yes,
So Dinosaur Island and Dinosaur Island Rawr N Write are, I guess, competing for first place depending on what you're looking for.
Rawr.
Some days this feels like it's better than the other. Other days that one just wins. And I'll have to admit, I really like having dinosaur tokens.
I knew it. I knew it. I was thinking in my head that Toby's gonna say the dinosaur tokens.
And I like having the slap wrist thing for your first player marker. So
Kickstarter thing. Sorry.
there's a tactile joy to Dinosaur Island that this does not hit. There's also a physical joy in seeing your park grow in the sense of, oh, I'll put this here.
Mm.
Ooh, I'll put this there. But it was funny how when we were playing Dinosaur Island, we were complaining. So what's the point of the road?
Yes.
We're not, it's
There's
not
no.
doing
You don't need a
anything.
route or
And
anything.
that's what this hits. Because this one suddenly it's all about the road. It's all about that route. It's it's sometimes as dumb as, okay, this is the most efficient way to do it. But sometimes you might go, oh, but I want to make the dinosaurs all in the exit. So it's like a big surprise in the end.
Or like I want him to pass by this one other dinosaur before he goes out. Like I already have a route to the exit, but then I built this one more dinosaur and I want to make him go see it. How
And
do I
then-
do that?
And then you have stories like me where in the first round I built nothing but merchandise and food.
Yeah, it's like it was he had a dinosaur park without dinosaurs. Questionable.
But that's because I was working on my jet ski. So
Toby's jet ski, T-Rex jet ski, whatever.
other
thing.
tips and tricks.
Okay. The apart the was this the unique buildings and specialists are very distracting. They are
Mm.
definitely going to pull your attention, but do not discount the basic attractions and the specialists that are printed on the sheet.
Yeah.
Because they will all give you benefits every time during the park, the run park phase.
Yes.
The three basic ones are the security chief, which gives you instantly 2 security, and then every run park phase gives you 1 more security. There's the tour guide, who I feel is one of the most awesome ones because he gives you excitement when you first get him, but more importantly, he gives you 2 roads during park run step, which is before the Dino Tour. So many a time, our tours have been saved because the tour guide was able to go, oh, there you go. That's the end of
We
the
can,
route.
we can go this way.
Yeah, we get to the exit. Hooray. So the tour guide, super important. And then the other one, which I feel like we have not fully maximized, is the junior scientist, who, when you first get her, gives you DNA, but more importantly, during run park phase, can make 2 dinosaurs
Mhm.
as a free action. That's kind of crazy as a last bump of excitement. And if you think you can handle it, you can push your excitement further because you'll earn some security most likely during the excitement phase, and maybe you'll be safe before you get to the death toll. So I love that aspect. For the basic attractions also, they're all useful in their own way. The merch store helps you get, oh crap, what does merch do again? I can't remember. The merch store lets you draw a random die from the bag and you get the resource.
That you roll.
Yes. Rides give you excitement every round, and just bonus excitement is great
Mhm.
because it's like you built dinosaurs every turn.
Mhm.
And then lastly, of course, is the food places, which give you money, which are important to building your T-Rex jet ski. So, which is like what Toby's goal. That's why he built these restaurants first, because he
Yes.
was paying for his T-Rex.
Money makers.
And
And-
then yeah.
And then I guess another thing to keep in mind is that the game is all about synergy. By
Mm.
finding the chains that you can create. I'll build these full food stalls because that then means on the run phase I earn free money. And then that free money can instantly unlock a specialist whose instant power triggers immediately. But then that means that they now give you a run bonus in the next round, and you find those little chains that you build and you make them more powerful each round. Once you get the hang of that, you'll realize that's what makes the game brilliant because all of you are working with practically the same set of tools, not necessarily the same resources
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily the same goals, but you aren't necessarily blocking off each other, except for the resources. Because other than the dice which you get, the action spaces are still generous.
Yeah.
If you're
You
willing
can
to
always
handle the
repeat
threat,
it. Yeah.
you're still generous. They're also literally generous. You double what you get, but everyone gets it as well.
Mm.
And then the rest of that is no longer affecting each other. So there's a lot of freedom to experiment and see how you'll approach the game this time. You want to try to have a game where you have nothing but carnivores and see if you can do it without killing anyone? Go for it. I know at one point my money maker was so effective that in the last round I was literally I'll buy that specialist even if I don't need it. It's 3 points anyway
Mm.
because you had the money flowing.
Mm-mm. Um, and then yeah, then pay attention to the unique buildings in the game because typically they will dictate your strategy
Mm.
also in your park. I think one of our first games we had something that gave bonuses if for every attraction of a particular type it was attached to,
Mm-mm.
and suddenly I built this weird grid where I left space for it right in the middle, and then I chose the way the shape is oriented so that everyone could connect to it, and it gave me a lot of points and helped me win that game.
Mm-mm.
Um, there's also the sometimes forgotten rule that you are allowed to flip the shape that you are going to draw for a building. It doesn't matter for dinosaur paddocks because they're squares, but for everything else that tend to have L shapes or Z
Mm.
shapes, you can flip them around and orient them however you want. So please, please, please take the time to think about it. It'll help you maximize your park even more.
Especially since you are not allowed to let buildings touch, even if it's just the corners.
Yes.
So that is a challenge that can confuse many, especially when you have two edges forming and then oh no, so I need two roads to connect them together because I can't overlap a bit. And yeah,
Then I guess uh, don't underestimate the joy of building multiple dinosaurs.
mm,
Dinosaur Island, the first game, teaches you to be a bit of restraint. You're probably going to create one dinosaur, maybe two if you double up on that other action. Like you have to use two rangers to make a second dinosaur. Uh, because the herbivores do not generate threat, it's not bad to just spam herbivores because they will give you excitement still
and
and then
that
points at the end of
unlocks
the
and
game.
that unlocks stuff as well.
And that may give you the security you need to tackle the bigger dinosaurs later on. So if sure, you probably have a big project per turn, like I'm going to build the Spinosaurus, which is a big carnivore. But if you still have enough DNA, see if you can build some more herbivores and then max them out.
Mm,
And then also, I guess the last thing is that don't be afraid to build buildings that are not part of your Dino Tour.
yeah.
While a tour route is important, buildings are functional even without roads attached to them. It just affects your Dino Tour. Sometimes you just need to build the building for the effect or to fill in gaps in your park that were
Mm.
created because of the weird building rules. So have fun with it. Sure, you have to plan your route, but then don't let it limit you too much.
Mm.
All right. Rawr.
So that's our coverage of Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write.
Rawr.
Definitely a high scoring, not variant.
Adaptation,
Family member.
re-implementation. Okay,
Family
sure.
member to the Dinosaur Island family of games that we've explored. We will get to exploring and talking about Dinosaur World sometime this year. Not not excited, but
Maybe we need to play it again.
yeah, we really need to play it again because it's hard to love a game which uses mechanics that we already love from other games,
And
and
then
then
they
it
didn't
feels
come together
and
well.
then it feels like it didn't deliver.
And then they made these really big tiles that I don't know if they really need to be that big.
Size isn't everything
We'll get to it in time.
when you talk about table space. Size, the
So,
space is premium.
so, if you love Dinosaur Island, we totally recommend you get Dinosaur Island Roar and Write. If you have never played a roll and write game before, this is a great first one.
Mhm.
If you've never played Dinosaur Island before, this is still a unique roll and write that will definitely feel very different. You are still building a theme park, and they have dinosaurs, so that's quite cool. I mean, people have gotten excited about building neighborhoods, so I think you get excited about building a dinosaur theme park. I'm not dissing Welcome to. It's a good game. I'm just saying thematically very cool. Okay.
And lastly, if you don't like too much direct play or gotcha moments wherein it feels like you're antagonistic,
Mm.
then this is a nice one because it's just enough interaction of you got the one I wanted, but it never feels like everyone's picking on me or it has just enough play interaction to not feel like you're at war.
Actually, and I wanted to mention that is that this is actually a hallmark of all the Dinosaur Island games.
Mhm.
There is a time that you interact, typically competing for spaces, but normally the main action phase involves everybody looking at their own
And
tableau
doing
and
their own
ignoring everyone else. So it's a funny little thing. It has the interactive moments, but then a lot of it does play a little solitaire. And then I like the balance. I do. I love the balance.
Same.
Plus dinosaurs. Rawr.
So that's our episode on Dinosaur Island, Rawr N Write. If you have comments and suggestions, that's your life. Thank you for watching.
Baduy Pride ideas on Bitly if you want to leave comments or suggestions. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobi No Shade, RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog, waypray.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below, although Toby already said that. And then be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride.
Thanks for watching.
We didn't do the cover thing.
I think we have enough.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do it. We can end with the guy.